Welcome to the Nikki Smash Show. I hope you're well. I am joined by, okay, Katie, you ready for this? I'm going to top the intro here. So,
I'm ready.
ladies and gentlemen, we have international influencer, country rock artist, recording artist, Katy Hurt.
It was a wonderful intro. Thank you.
That's all right, So I think I should, I'm going to offer my services because we're good friends.
Will you be my hype man?
Yeah, I'm going to be the hype guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's actually my calling. Maybe I'm a shit musician. I just need to
I've
talk like that.
I've always loved the idea of having someone go on stage before you just to do the whole hype thing, but it's not really a thing in country music. You don't normally have hype men in country music.
Yeah, it doesn't need it, does it? I think as well, you kind of sometimes need it if you're shit. So
Aww.
we've had it a few times where someone's like, can I do an intro for you? It's like, yeah, I suppose we're that shit that we need someone to kind of pump people up, or at least tell them who we are before we're going on, because no one fucking knows who we were or gives a shit, so it's
I did a competition when I was 14, and it was a local talent competition, and they obviously were introducing each act to the audience, and the whole thing was mainly rock bands and pop singers and stuff. And then the MC came out. She was like, "Is anybody ready for a little bit of country?" And nobody made a noise except my mum. She's like, "Great! Now you've already made them hate me." It's just
cool.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you can definitely be my hype man. I would allow it.
The thing is with country in the UK, and it's only, in my honest opinion, it's only started changing in the last 5 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been generous, I think, is that people go country and they think of fucking Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah. Most people, when I say, I'm a country singer, most people go, "Oh, so you want to be Dolly Parton?"
Oh, right. Yeah. If you're a female, so it's just
Dolly Parton. Yes, I would love to be as successful as Dolly Parton, but that's not the same. Not everybody who makes country music from the 70s or the 80s. We've grown just like every other genre. There are hundreds of different ways to play country music, just like there are different rock subgenres and pop subgenres and indie music, and I think people get hooked on the country and western thing, which is a shame. I think it's such a wonderful genre, and there's so many different incredible artists that when people have that immediate assumption, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. It is an absolutely phenomenal genre. I've only really I've always loved country music, I've always had I've admired not just the songwriting, but the caliber of musician. It's probably one of the only genres where people want to see the perfect hybrid of ability and song and emotion all slammed together. It's the perfect
and there's no
recipe for it.
Because it's such from my perspective, it's such a kind of honest, everything's laid out on the line. There's no hiding behind tracks or anything. Everything's all the artists I love, they all play live. There's no when you see a bluegrass band, those guys are shredding like crazy.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of other genres that could learn from genuinely just falling in love with your instrument and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with the kind of rock stuff that I'm doing. There's so much electronic. I say that's the problem with it. I love it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And it has its place. But it allows for. I think sometimes it lets you get away with stuff.
Yeah, there's no two ways about that. In the Dolls we had a lot of track, but not on every song. It would be one or two songs in the set would be heavily reliant on, having track orchestras, sub drops and piano parts, and it's well, I'm not going to hire someone to come out and play a song on the piano.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just, when there's no room for it in anything else, it seems silly to do that. So yes, take advantage of it. And, we've always played to a click, even when I have mental health breakdowns, like you saw when you came to see me, and I had that fucking absolute meltdown on the
That was
stage, and I was just like, that was funny enough. That was when we were talking yesterday, because I can't think of how to timestamp this. What is it? It's like, this is Wednesday, the 7th of April, and yesterday we've been doing some writing the last couple of weeks. So, yes, which we will totally come on to later. But yeah, that was like the start of like that week building up to that, and then I was really ill the day after. And from then on, because I remember like I didn't really give a shit about it, but I was so excited that you and Gab were coming, and it was the shittest fucking gig ever.
Sometimes though,
nothing worked. It was all like, oh man, I really like look up to Katy and Gab, and this was when we were first like getting to like know each other and shit. And you know, my mental health was in tatters. And we played that show, and I remember I just couldn't concentrate on anything. Like my brain was just not in the game.
Yeah, just moving 100 miles a minute.
Yeah, and you know, and then it was like, oh, you need to get your shit together. You know, and then I was like, oh, I bet Kate and Gab think this is bullshit.
No,
you know, and then like I remember Ben counts in and just goes whack, and then I just didn't play, and I was like, and then I just went something like, yeah, mate, over on the sound desk, I can't fucking hear anything.
Because I did blame the sound man, but I have found that has like, sometimes that's like a blessing because you can blame them because they're like a hidden figure that no one can see. And sometimes it really comes back to bite you, because I've definitely had a couple experiences where they've unplugged things or purposefully turned things off because you've pissed them off somehow, and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, totally. I've had that experience too. It's a funny one because you're like, technically, like, they're not the king of the show.
No,
they're there to help.
They're there to make you sound good, but sometimes sometimes sound engineers, because they work in their venue and they get used to their venue and their sound. And when you come in and you have your sound, it can be a bit of a clash to try and make them be like, yeah, but you never want to say like you're here to make it sound good, but you know, it's like an awkward thing. You just have to find the right sound people to kind of, you know.
Yeah. It's like, you know, because no, sorry, Karen.
Oh, I was going to say the last gig we played, I take my own mic to venues, and actually it was super grateful that I did, because that last show we played was just as the pandemic was kind of kicking off, and I was trying to be careful of germs. So I said to the band, like, we all need to take our own mics tonight. We all need to, you know, have our own gear. And the guy was like, your mic's broken. I was like, it has phantom power. Have you turned phantom power on? And he was like, yeah, I have. And your mic's broken. It doesn't work. I was like, it was like a brand new mic, and I had just bought it, and it was expensive. And I was just like, no, I really don't want to use your, like, you know how there's always that one venue mic that's like dented and it's been dropped on the floor.
It's a shit SM58 that's been round for donkey's years.
It's been licked by 1,000 people, and you're just like, oh, please don't make me use that, please. And he was like, no, your mic doesn't work. And I was like, please turn the phantom power on. And he was like, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, okay.
I hate that assumption.
I stole my bass player's mic, and he just didn't do backing. Like, I gave him a different one because I was just like, I can't use that one. I'm going to die. I was just like, I have to.
It's ridiculous, man. I hate the assumption that, you know, and this is not like me tarnishing all sound engineers, because I know some phenomenal sound engineers.
Yeah, same.
And, you know, it's when you get ones like that night, you know, where he's just like, oh, that's a fucking £800 mic. And it's like, no, it's not, mate. That's an £85 Sennheiser, like, welcome to microphones level microphone.
Well, I think the other thing is, like, the experiences I've had is that we've played a lot of grassroots venues and smaller independent places, and we've done, I mean, I've literally played everywhere.
Yeah, you have, yeah.
From like people's living rooms all the way up to huge festival stages. And the smaller venues, like, I think they just assume that you aren't very experienced when you first go. And if they haven't heard of you, then that's fine, because not everybody's going to have heard of you. But I think they just assume that you are brand new and you don't know what you're doing. My two favorite experiences, we were playing a show in London, and halfway through the set, the sound engineer just came up on stage and changed the amp settings because he didn't like the tone. I was like, what is going on? What are you doing? I didn't like it. And then the other one, I turned up to an acoustic show. It was just me and Gab was playing on guitar. And just before the show, I started to unwind the mic cable from around the mic stand. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I walk around on stage with the mic and I'll need it to be unwound. And he was like, you'll break my cable. I was like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm not going to break your mic cable. I'm not going to swing it around above my head like a lasso. Like, I'm literally just going to stand there and sing a ballad. Like, can you just calm down? He made me go and get one. I literally had to send my parents to be like, can you just drive home and get me my own mic cable? Because he wouldn't let me use his if I was going to walk around.
Jesus.
Fortunately, it was like a close venue to my house, but I was just like, are you for real? And he was like, you're going to stand on it. And I was like, yes, maybe.
Not intentionally. I'm not going to stamp on it. Like,
I'm pretty certain that you could stand on it once and it's not going to kill your mic. But yeah, so sometimes you have experiences like that. And sometimes you turn up and they're like God sent angels and they'll let you like, you know, figure out your sound and really work with you. And they're amazing. So it was a bit of a catch-22 though.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that comes nicely onto this next question then. Do you think like you have... Well, I mean, I know this for a fact. I'm just kind of airing this question for podcast sake, that because we've spoken about this before, like being a woman in the industry, people like that, they'll come along and like, oh, it's this nice little girl. You know, I bet she doesn't know shit. You know, when you're like a proper trained, well, literally international recording artist, and people have like the audacity to think, oh, it's just little girl.
I mean,
here, you know.
I'm really lucky that my band are super experienced musicians and they are, you know, big guys, clearly know what they're doing.
Yeah, you got a great band, yeah.
I think if I was, and I don't mean this as any hate to anybody else that's my age, but I think if I was touring with musicians that were also my age, that were younger, it would be worse. But I think the fact that my band are like seasoned pros at what they do, when we get to a venue, we kind of just, you know, we're in work mode. So we get to the venue and we start setting up and we do everything. And I think that has really helped, having them there almost like a buffer. But there have definitely been a few occasions where I have personally been on stage or have had conversations like that one with the mic stand where he was like, what do you think you're doing? You can't unwind the microphone. And I was like, yes, you can. You know, and it's just like, sir, I know what I'm doing. And you don't want to say that because you don't want to offend them. You don't want them to make you sound bad. But it's the same with venue owners. Sometimes I'll go to, you know, at the end of the night, because I was the one that organized, Gab and I organized all of our touring in 2019 and 2018. And we were the ones that were doing all the bookings and the promotion and everything. I'd go up at the end of the night to like sort out the, you know, like the split and the fee and like make sure everything was, you know, sorted out. And I'd get people like, oh, I'll just wait until I can speak to your manager. And I'd be like, no, I am the manager. Like I'm the one that you need to deal with. They'd be like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. It's my band.
Yeah. I'm Katy from the Katy Hurt band.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I actually, and this is a secret tip for it's not even a secret tip. I think Lady Gaga did it and that's kind of where we got the idea. But I think of it as my secret tip. The best decision I made being an independent artist was making a business email account with different signatures so that we could send emails from management.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because I found, especially with festival applications, if I applied for the festival under my own name, like signed off Katy, we'd never get responses. If Gab sent them, they would reply. And if we sent them just from Katy Hurt management, literally just the generic name of Katy Hurt's management team, we would get responses every time. So they just wouldn't respond to me, which I don't know whether that's because they thought I was the artist and therefore must have been like relatively new and inexperienced and didn't know what I was doing, or whether that's because it was a girl's name on the email. I can't actually say, but I think having a buffer of, and also at venues, there were definitely occasions where I'd be talking to an owner or something or to a promoter and it would be getting awkward. And I'd be like, oh, I don't deal with the finance. If you email my management, they'll sort it out. And then I would go home and I would deal with it, but it was just easier to do it that way.
Shit. Yeah. It's funny that, isn't it? The amount of times in my early days of just, you know, like having emails or text messages and stuff, like email trails, and, you know, going out and they go like, okay, we're here to collect the money. And they go, there's no agreement for money. And I go, Yeah, there is, you know, and it get into fisticuffs, literally, you know,
Mm.
and it's just fucking mad. But I suppose that's the thing with that stuff, you know, there's a lot of people that assume just, I don't know what it is about the music industry, about that type of thing. Because as you know, I work both sides of the coin, and it's a wonderful thing, but it also jades you very quickly.
Mm.
I'm definitely in a jaded pattern of the industry right now in my life, but the amount of times that people just assume everything's shit.
Mm. Well,
You know.
I'm in a very fortunate position now that I do work with a wonderful team, as well as continuing to basically manage everything. But
Yeah.
I do now have a wonderful team around me, and especially with the band, they have been absolutely instrumental in making people take it seriously, as opposed to just assuming anything. And the other thing is, I stopped actually saying country singer in approach, because the other thing that's crazy to me, that I always find really crazy, is even with venue hire. Like, I would call a venue and be like, hi, I want to hire your venue to come and put on a concert, so I'll just pay you the venue hire fee. And then I'd say I'm a country singer or something, and I'd get responses, so we don't do country music. And it's like, yeah, but I'm paying you, and then I'll promote it, so you don't have to worry about anything. And they would say no. Whereas if I just said, hey, I want to hire your venue, and didn't say anything about genre, and just said, I'm bringing my band and I'll sell tickets and stuff, it would be fine. So I think people think they don't give it a chance. So
That's crazy, isn't it?
But I have been very lucky that now I've obviously been doing this long enough. I've kind of worked out what works and what doesn't. But
you have to find out the hard way, don't you? Really?
You really do have to, like, it's no joke, the whole concept of paying your dues in the music industry. If you don't, it's really obvious that you haven't.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
But I also think, looking back, some of those shows that were the worst shows are also the ones where I learned the most as an artist and as a musician. And they're the ones where I was like, okay, how do we make the best out of an awkward situation? Like, if we turn up and the amp is actually just one of those like tiny plug-in speaker systems, or like you turn up and they don't have enough microphones, then, you know, you get to do like gathering around one mic and singing, and it sounds more like intimate stuff. So it was just kind of like, working out all of those crappy situations actually has made me a much better performer in the long run. It's just really painful on the day when you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't have to, like, yeah. Yeah.
It's like learning how to have like an open book of being able to adapt, like at any given time. It's a weird thing. Like at first, like, you know, I've always struggled with like, authority making me feel stupid feeling. I think that comes from school. So whenever I've been in a situation where, you know, where someone's kind of like, they're obviously just trying to tell you black and white what's happening in a scenario, but sometimes I've read it as in like they're belittling me. So then there's already a fucking war on. Do you know what I mean? And it becomes so hard to kind of navigate around that. But I suppose as you grow as a human being as well as a musician, do you know what I mean? Human being, you know. So
I actually say that instead of human being. Like, it's just become my standard vocabulary now.
Yeah, human being. Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
It's like when we all started saying lol, ironically, and now we all just say it.
Now everyone's like, lol.
Lol.
I'm like, what? Just laugh.
But going back to your point about, like, as a girl, is it different? I mean, it's been proven that it's harder, but I think that there are obviously benefits and disadvantages to it. There are definitely some situations I've been able to take advantage of because I'm a girl. And there are also conversations where I'm just like, oh, hey guys, can one of you go and deal with this? Because I just don't want to. Like, I know it will be easier if I send one of them.
Yeah. Do you have like, you know, do you mean like there's been like, you know, how can I say this, like harassment type of scenarios? Have you ever had any weird shit like that? Because I hear a lot about that stuff, because I toured with a lot of women bands as well, you know.
It's not necessarily harassment per se. Like, I've not experienced, from a music venue, I wouldn't say I've experienced actual harassment, but I have experienced discomfort. And I've definitely been in scenarios where, and this is across the board throughout life, and it happens just as much in music venues because it's genuinely a predominantly male experience. When you go to venues, it tends to be male bar staff, male bouncers, male sound engineers, that whole situation. And when I turn up and I'm wearing cowboy boots and a dress or whatever, there have been uncomfortable situations, and I've definitely been in a few scenarios where I've said to the guys, please don't leave me alone tonight. If we've been in a place that, like, the other thing is we're touring the country and we're in places that we've never been before, and venues aren't necessarily the nicest places in the world. Like, some of them are, your green room is the back room of a pub and it's an unlocked door that you have to get changed in, or it's
you're sitting on the empty beer kegs that have been used ready to be shipped off.
And so there have been, like, I'll go, and instead of a dressing room, it's like, a store cupboard. So I'm like, can one of you guard the door while I get ready, or will you come and have this conversation with me? Because I know that having a big, like Gab's pretty tall and my bass player is huge and does jiu-jitsu, and so I always feel safe around them. So I think that there have definitely been scenarios where I've been like, can you come with me? Because not that anything bad would happen, but more just as like a preventative measure. But I think that that's something that a lot of girls do all the time, and that's really sad. But
I've seen it firsthand, man. It's like, the thing is, it's, people always say like, oh, what are you on your fucking high horse, Nikki, about women in music? It's like, well, actually, I've spent more time with women in music than I have with men. My first 3 or 4 sessions as an artist when I moved to the UK were all playing for women.
Cool.
Right? In various things, from like pop to country to like heavy as fuck, riffs and shit like that. And then I did it.
Riffs and shit is its own genre.
Riffs and shit is now its own genre. Yeah, totally. I coined that. Yeah. So doing that stuff. So I've seen it from, like, it's not like a genre specific thing. I've seen it happen. And then I've got like my really good friends in the Hot Damn, who were like Tequila Mockingbird and the Amorettes and stuff, like punk rock thing. And the difference, like, I remember one thing actually, I was, tour managing them in fucking 2019. It's like almost like 2 years ago. Fuck.
I still think, no, if you say 2019, that's last year to me.
That's last year.
Like, I haven't, like when you were at school and you would change year and you'd still accidentally write the last year in your school book.
Yeah.
I'm still doing that with 2019. I'm like, so last year when we did this, and I was like, that's like 2 years ago now. And I'm like, no. Like, I haven't processed.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
no, it's cool. I totally get that. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's, fucking hell, yeah. Bloody school, man. School. So like I was like kind of off stage in a wing, and Jill, who's the front woman of Hot Damn, and they were doing an Amorette set that night. I don't want to say the name of the festival because they're good people, but it's just someone in the crowd. And it was a fucking blazing hot day. Like, I was like, my job that day was like making people hydrated. It was just one of them. It's just like so dry, so hot. And, Jill's standing there with like a Les Paul and stuff, and she was like, whew, it's getting hot up here, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Type of thing. And then someone goes, take your clothes off. And it's like, unnecessary comment.
Well, I think when it comes to fans, there's a different level of stuff that goes on. So like the stuff that you get from the behind the scenes people generally tends to be, I guess, I wouldn't say the word belittling, but it generally tends to be like, oh, you're just the girl in the band. Like, you don't know what's going on.
Oh, fuck. Right. Yeah. I saw that
The fan behavior can sometimes be, it's right there on the border, because they're, like, fangirl style behavior, like the way I had posters of my idols on my bedroom ceiling and stuff. It's creepy. Like, I had like a 6-foot cardboard cutout of the guys from Twilight. It's like, but when you get that when you're a girl, and then there's guys coming up to you saying things like, oh, you're really hot and everything. On the one hand, you're like, thanks for being a fan, thanks for buying the artwork. And obviously I've tried really hard to create like an image and everything.
Yeah, of course.
And, when people have like t-shirts with your face on and they've made their own merch, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it sometimes goes too far. And I think it sometimes goes too far. And obviously I'm sure it happens the other way around as well. I'm sure there are girls that have stalked or been too affectionate towards their male idols. But I think with girls, it's just a little bit scarier. So there have definitely been a couple occasions where I've been like, guys, will you come with me to the merch table just so that we're all there, as like so we can all be present. Because it is sometimes, and it's just like, it happens when you go to festivals and you want to do a meet and greet for everyone. And I've made a point of always staying behind to sign autographs and sign CDs and sell merch and take pictures and stuff. And people will bring their kids and their puppies. And we once had a photograph session with a Shetland pony at a merch table. But like, sometimes
really going for that country vibe.
But sometimes when you've just got like a string of guys that are like, can I have a hug? And then they'll try and give you a kiss on the cheek. And I'm just there like, where do you draw the line with that kind of stuff? Because you never want to be like, oh, please don't touch me. But because I'm happy to give people hugs, but at the same time, you're also like, there needs to be a boundary. And I think it's really difficult, especially difficult when you're first starting out, because you just have to learn. And then I guess it gets easier when you get more famous or more successful, because you end up having like security and stuff that can kind of control the crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just something that you have to tackle on like a daily basis, and like and there are always going to be those type of people that yell obscene things like take your clothes off or show us your whatever. But that's not even specific to gigs though. I get that just walking to the local post office. So like there's just those people in the world, and that's a shame. But I don't think those people are representative of, I would hope and pray that those people aren't representative of the majority.
No, they're not. But, I think,
they ruin it for everyone else, but,
Well, they do. And that's always been the case with most things. It's like you have the one naughty kid in school and he'll fuck it all up for the whole class.
Yeah, you all have detention.
You all get fucked for that one guy's, actions. And that's the exact same with what's happening here. So I get that a lot of, like, especially with what's happening around the UK at the moment, like I get people, I understand why people are saying not all men. I get that, because some people have been golden all their life.
Yeah, and it's just a frustrating situation.
And it is frustrating, because you feel like I'm not part of that. I'm not that, whatever that guy's done, that's not me. But
I think the other thing is that those people are genuine criminals. So there's always that how do you actually just differentiate between the guys that get too drunk and shout stuff and genuine criminals who do things that are actually, illegal. Because nobody wants to be associated as being one of that side. The other side kind of get a bit stressed. But yeah, no, it is generally just frustrating. But I think, I think that that's something that people have been dealing with for a long time. I also think that's one of the reasons why female artists in general, or girls in bands or anything, get given the term of diva, which I find an interesting term. And actually, having recently done some research into the kind of origins of country music, it's really interesting to me looking back. My favorite artist is Patsy Cline.
Right.
And it's so funny reading about her, and it's just like Patsy swore like a sailor, and she wasn't afraid to put men in their place in the studio. And it's like, so she was doing her job, and she was telling people
so she was just telling musicians to get their shit together, basically.
But then it's always like, oh, she's a diva. And then obviously it gets worse. You get, even artists like Beyonce and Ariana Grande and all those kind of people, they're like divas. And it's like, well, and I don't know how you draw the distinction between whether or not they're actually being like full of themselves because of how massive they are, or whether they're actually just tired of putting up with, the scenario that's in front of them all the time. So it's interesting that word is only used for female artists, and yet when you look at some of the things that like male rock stars have done, and you just think, how are they not being called divas? Like, excuse me.
Well, I have a big problem with this like only way is Essex culture that's like swarmed the UK. And seemingly swarming male everywhere. And there's like, you get this shit like Love Island and all this other stuff. I'm not going to lie, I've watched some Love Island and I thought some of it was fucking hilarious. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe people like this exist. Right. And I was laughing because it was just like so ludicrous, the shit that they were saying, the way they were talking to each other, the way that they were they believe to themselves how they interact with other people. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And some of these people are like 19, 20, 21, you know, and maybe it's because I'm 34 and being a bit of an old man about it. But like, you just look at it and you just think like, all right, when I was 18, I may have done a wolf whistle in a club at a woman. I'm not going to lie. Probably have done that. I'm very ashamed of, you know, as I got older and realized, you know, the severity of doing stupid shit like that. But being 20 years old, being 21 years old, and like just mugging people off on TV and trying to fuck people here and fuck people there and all this other stuff, and then being recklessly violent for what's seemingly nothing, you know, and then they're the same people going, we need better rights for this and better rights, and that's like,
I've never seen an episode, so I can't even begin to imagine, but I have in the past seen clips of things like Jersey Shore and Geordie Shore, so I'm sure that if it's anything along the lines of like bad reality TV, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is, and that's the shit that happens. So people, you know, you've got one hand, right? People are going, you know, we need better stuff for women, we need better stuff for that, and then they're watching men do exactly that shit on TV, you know, and you're like, you can't say one or the other now, because you're literally you're getting cans of petrol and just lobbing it onto a fire.
Really?
Yeah. And it's just like, you know, like, I don't understand why, you know, one minute you see people on Facebook do it all the time, don't you? You know, your timeline, and rightly so, is filled up with like things need to change, things like that, you know, but at the same time, people are then subjecting themselves to watching it.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and obviously this has been something that's also been going on for years, and I can well imagine in the 80s when, you know, people were trying to release music and people were putting explicit stickers on, it was a similar sort of like, they've gone too far. And obviously women have been campaigning against, you know, or for equality for, you know, years, but I mean, I'm meant to be of the generation everything, and even I find it too much sometimes, and I do think it's damaging. And I'm not even like even when I'll have like I watched that social networking thing on Netflix.
Is it Social Dilemma?
Social Dilemma, that's it.
I haven't seen that yet. I need to see it.
I watched it and I was immediately like, well, I have a social media addiction. Now what? And then it was just like, well, I better check Instagram. And you literally can't, like, you watch it and then your brain is so confused because you're like, this is terrible. I should definitely never use these again. And then you're like, oh, but I have to post. And I think it's actually really, really difficult for people who are in creative industries because it has become so important to the creative industry. It's really hard to differentiate between the personal element and the business element. So when I go on to do a business post, the thing that distracts me is I'll find myself scrolling and I'm like, yeah, but I've done the business post, I should leave now.
I do.
But I think media in general, I think, has gotten a bit too risque. And I don't mean to say that because I'm trying to be a prude or anything. I'm just confused by what I see on TV and on TikTok and things like that sometimes. And I don't really understand it. But then again, I sometimes think, well, it's not meant for me. So
yeah, I totally get what you mean when you say that, you know, because from like a creative point of view, right? So we talk about like me as a musician and an artist as a brand. I fucking hate social media. It drives me batshit, you know, but I find myself, I have to be on it. Yeah,
it's a blessing and a curse because you really do have to use it. And when it works, it works. And you can
brilliant. When it works in your favor, it is wonderful, you know. But like when, like you said, you know, you're sitting there and you're flicking through, like you'll post something and then it will, like on Instagram sometimes you'll post it and it just gets dropped down as something else is posted and then bang, they've got you. Then you spend 10 minutes just looking through the feed. So you're like, oh, just fuck's sake, you know, like just get off it. And then, you know, you're getting people, you know, like you have to interact, you've got to talk to people and stuff. And it's like, I would like to talk to my partner, you know, I'd like to, you know, do that. It's a weird little fucking thing that happens, you know, and You know, it's like when you're a musician and an artist, as you know, it's that like you're never not working. Every time you're on social media in one form or another, you're working.
Well, and this is the difficult thing for me. I'll go on and I'll say I'm working. And I'll think, oh, I'm looking at what other people are up to. I'm trying to come up with ideas. But really, sometimes you are just scrolling and you have to catch yourself. And it is just terrible. But yeah, in terms of generally speaking, you're never not thinking about what you can do next, how you can be better, what you can achieve, and, you know, what else is going on in the music world? What do you need to be a part of? What do you need to be engaging in? It is just a lot. And I think sometimes I found myself getting more caught up in that and then realizing I haven't actually played any music. And then I have to basically reprimand myself, and I'm like, go and do the thing that you actually love, which is a weird thing to think. But I do think, just quickly going back to your other point, I do think that sometimes people post more of themselves on social media than they should. And then when you get things like Love Island and Towie and shows that represent that kind of lifestyle, other people who wouldn't normally start behaving in a similar manner. And I think that's where it can get a bit, you know, confusing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I got to do things to be better at it. Like, you know, we're in that, like, as you know, like me and Becca are about to have a child. So it's like,
yay!
Yeah, Auntie Katie, Uncle Gab.
I'm so excited for you.
Oh no, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited. But, you know, there's like, I do it sometimes where like I'll post a picture about it or an update. And then I'm like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I've just totally fucking, or I do something stupid like Jacob's being hilarious, like going like, rock and roll, daddy, rock and roll. And I'll take a quick video of it and stick it on, you know, and it's funny. It is funny because he's hilarious, you know, like I had that thing where I was playing the ukulele, like stupid, I tuned it, you know, and then I was playing it and he's going like, you know, like with it and stuff. And it was funny. So I posted it. And then you think, I've kind of done that without his consent.
Well, that we had, it's so funny because we spent this is so weird because this is probably going back like nearly 2-3 years now. I'm trying to think because the years are wrong. But like we have pretty serious conversations in the car because we spend so much time in the car as a band. We've had some ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it goes nuts, doesn't it? When you're
like so deep. You're like 10 hours to Scotland. What are we going to talk about? And I remember
our whole life story. Yeah.
Remember we had this one drive where we just talked about whether or not it was appropriate to put kids on social media. And it's like, why were we talking about that? Like, but then at the same time, it was like a really serious discussion. And it was just like, well, probably shouldn't. Just period.
Yeah.
Just probably shouldn't. Because it is just, I mean, it's just a scary place. But then again, you know, I mean, it's just this catch-22 when it's a business thing. Like we do a live stream every Saturday or every other Saturday and every other Wednesday. We're doing one tonight, actually. And last week we had somebody tuned in from Germany, somebody tuned in from Norway, somebody tuned in from Australia, somebody tuned in from Ecuador, and then people from the States and the UK. And I was just like, sick. This is insane. Like, how are we... Like I'm literally broadcasting around the world.
Yeah, it's fucked.
And it's just like, that's amazing. How that we have the technology to do that somebody could be in Ecuador listening to us sing on a Saturday night. That's just really...
In your house.
Yeah, it's just really weird. And you feel like, and it feels amazing. But I think there has to be moderation. And like, I've set myself a time limit now. So my phone tells me when I have been on for more than an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So... just so I know. So I'm like, oh, okay, I really need to stop today. But I think
how do you do that?
You can literally do it on Instagram. Like you can set yourself a time limit.
And it will let you know.
And be like, you've spent an hour on Instagram today. Would you like to continue? And it's like, probably not.
Shit.
Yeah.
I need to get on that, man.
But no, it is. I mean, I think it's really, really important that artists are on social media. But I do have to be, yeah. I do think that you need to just be mindful. And it's strange to me, again, like going back to Patsy Cline, when I'm looking at it and it's just like people really didn't know very much, so it almost made more of a mystery. And on the one hand you kind of think, well, I want people to know more about me and I want to reach more people, and on the other hand,
be aloof.
You need to kind of retain some of that for your own sanity. And I think some artists have been really, really good at that. People like Taylor Swift, actually, who really don't use the platform very much other than to post about like, this is the new single coming out. But
she's got such a big audience though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the flip side of that though. That's, she's been around since she was like 15, so, and she's like 30 now, I think, she's just a little bit younger than me, and so she spent half her life again in the limelight. That's a long time, half her life. And now from forever onwards will be in public eye, which is crazy. Bit of sun popping through. So when she was like knocking about, she had TV and press naturally going like this. Same with Justin Bieber and stuff.
Yeah.
Even Michael Jackson to a degree, dare I say his name, but these people are so big that they don't need to do anything. But the moment they do,
the blessing of actually having a platform, because then you can just post about it and all of a sudden you've got success. But I still think that there's a balance to be struck. And I think I'm really
still trying to find that.
Me too. And I catch myself all the time, and my friends will point it out as well. They're like, you're on your phone too much today. And it's just hard not to be. And especially I think it's worse because we're all at home.
Yeah.
And you kind of just like bored and what's going on. And then the difficult thing is obviously being at home all the time. It's like there's nothing to post, even though you can probably find stuff to post, but you get into your head as an artist like, oh, I have to post something.
Post something. Yeah.
But again, for the sake of your own mental health, like I've definitely had to consider it more carefully. Because I do find myself comparing myself and then getting upset about it, or you'll see somebody do something awesome, like like a riff or something, and you'll be like, I can't do that, and it's like, that's because you've spent an hour on Instagram instead of an hour practicing. So
yeah, it's like I've got like, I follow like some mad shit on Instagram, like stuff like fucking, I'm well into architecture and design, so I've got loads of like house stuff on there, which is actually a detrimental for my page, because it keeps going, hey, do you want to check out Luigi McJigabajoggy from Italy, and he's a famous architect? I'm like, I don't actually, but thanks for trying anyway. And then my algorithm's probably in the dirt because it thinks like, well, you're a musician but you like architecture. Like,
oh yeah, mine will be like makeup videos, interior design. It's just
I follow male models, and it's like probably a bit weird, and it's and I'm just like, oh my god, this guy's in phenomenal shape. Oh my god. I'm like drinking another pint of Coca-Cola, I'm there
the
like,
fitness side of the internet just confuses and
oh man.
I've recently started trying to get prepare for the shows coming up again, so trying to get my stamina back up and everything, and it's just kind of made me realize how much I haven't done in the past year because we've been at home. But I fell down the rabbit hole of like fitness YouTube, and it's just,
oh god, that's fitness YouTube.
Oh my god,
fucking nuts, man.
I mean, yeah, some of those people are like superhuman, I swear. Like, they're absolutely amazing. But it just actually talking about social media, it's interesting as an artist because you find yourself wanting to share all these different elements so that you have like a full story. So like I'll share things like doing a workout, or really fortunate to work with some brands who are fitness related, and so then I'll start posting about that. And it's trying to find that balance between actually being a creative musician and you kind of blur the lines between, I hate to say it, but I'm going to an influencer.
Yeah.
Because you have a platform.
But so you are an influencer now.
Yeah. But you do have to be careful about what you say as well. And I think that's something really important about, like, when I post, I'm aware of how many people it's going to.
Yeah.
So I try and be careful in like, do I believe in it? Is it relevant to what I actually am and who I am and what I do? And is it something that I can stand behind when I post anything? I kind of am aware that it's going to a very large group of people. And a lot of those people might be younger girls like I was who are following it. So Yeah, it's really interesting. But yes, no, I am. I work with an incredible company called Legacy Sportswear who
Yes, let's talk about them.
They're amazing. I absolutely love them. And they've made me an affiliate. So I use the code Katy Hurt 10 and you can get 10% off at any time.
I'll put a link in the description.
I have absolutely lived in my rest day sweatpants. Excellent. They're the best.
Hey, Legacy, hook your boy Nikki Smash up with some pants and his pregnant partner.
We did my hoodies that were made. We did some pre-order of some hoodies back in last winter time. And I was going to say what year, but I don't know. And they made them and they were amazing quality. They're genuinely just the best team of people and the best quality stuff. And they make bamboo sportswear, which is more eco-friendly.
Oh, sick. I'm well up for that shit. Yeah.
Super soft and amazing. So I work with them and I'm really, really proud to work with them. They also work with the Guildford Flames, who are an ice hockey team, which is awesome because I love ice hockey because I spent a lot of time in Canada recording. And so I've become a bit of an ice hockey fan.
Who do you support?
Well, do you know, I support loads of different teams. The Winnipeg Jets, the Guildford Flames, and the Bracknell Bees.
The Bracknell Bees.
I found out that the local ice rink, the Bracknell ice rink, has its own hockey team. They have the Bracknell Bees. So I went and watched a game.
That's awesome.
But it's so funny because the band have kind of gotten into it. So my drummer Steve supports the Streatham Redhawks and he goes to all the games. And then he's like, Streatham are coming. And I'm like, it's fine. We'll beat you. So now we have like a little rivalry going on. It's awesome.
That's sick. I'm a Canadians fan.
I actually got the chance to present the Man of the Match award on ice for the Guildford Flames, which was absolutely hilarious to me.
Oh, that's so good.
Walk out. But do you have any idea how big ice hockey players are? Like those guys are massive.
Fucking ginormous.
And they're on skates, which are like basically just heels, ice heels.
Yeah.
And I walked out and I'm 5 foot tall, right? And I was like, hello up there. Hello. And there's this hilarious like Man of the Match photo. And he's literally like, his arm is like his hand is just on my head. Like
it's just on your head, like.
He's like, hello, tiny child. Who are you? It's just hilarious. Yeah, and it's amazing. So I highly recommend people get in touch with Legacy because I'm just really passionate and proud to be working with them. But I also recently started working with a company called Goalie, who amazingly, and this made me feel very proud, announced that they were working with me and Jennifer Lopez in the same week. Ooh. I was like, oh, me and JLo.
Fucking get it.
I'm sure that she has reached a much larger group of people than I have. And actually, I posted about the fact that JLo had also been announced as one of their kind of ambassadors, and it got spammed as like it got flagged as spam on my page, and I posted it because they just thought it was like a JLo advert.
The irony.
No, it's legit. I'm just sharing it. But yeah, they make apple cider vinegar gummy bears. I'm a vegetarian. I have been since I was like 12. So for the majority of my, for all of my adult life, I have been. And so I've always been quite health conscious in that respect. And if anybody's ever tried to go on a fitness kick and done any of the things like drink an apple cider vinegar shot in the morning, they will know how disgusting it is.
I've had Goalie before and it's amazing.
Yeah. So I currently, you can also use the code Katy Hurt for Goalie gummies, and they're awesome. And I've been taking them, and my skin has cleared up, which I'm amazed by because I was just like, well, that was like an unexpected side effect. But they're genuinely just really great. So yeah,
I'm gonna fucking do that. I'll hit all your influencer links in the description.
Yeah, I have to say it like that because I can't bring myself to say it. But it is interesting because as an artist, having such
influencer, she's an influencer.
You get approached by all these brands because they're like, oh, you have Instagram followers. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not an Instagrammer. Like,
yeah, I'm a musician. Yeah.
Like I just post on here. And it's quite funny because when I check out artists I really like, when I like go on Vince Gill's Instagram page and he's only got like 40,000 followers, but he's got like 22 Grammys. And so you're like, oh, it's okay. I don't need to be on the platform.
Yeah, it's I told you I had a student at the beginning of last year going, you haven't got a blue tick. I was like, yeah,
I haven't got a blue tick either.
I was like, I don't need a blue tick. For a start, no one gives a shit who I am. So, I don't think Instagram would be too I don't think they'd give a fuck if I had one or not, you know. And even though I've got like 1,500 followers, I only get like 2 likes every time I post something anyway.
I like your posts, Nikki.
I know you like all of them, Katie. Yeah, you're a true friend, you know. And yeah, so it's my mum doesn't even like my Instagram posts.
I had to get my brother. I was like, you always like other people's posts, but you never like mine. Can you please go back and can you backdate your likes, please?
Go and backdate it. That's amazing. Oh man. Well, that's wicked that you get to do that though. It is.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really good that, you know, you can find brands that are beneficial to you and your lifestyle, and you can get behind them in an honest way.
Yeah.
You see so many people, like we've discussed this with musicians and like signature pedals and stuff, and they don't use fucking anything with them. And you're like, then why have you done it?
Well, I mean, I know why they've done it. It's because they've been paid to do it. And actually the difficult thing as a musician, in that we don't make very much money, is that when somebody offers you money, you usually just say yes.
Yeah,
and then,
that is true.
You know, like I can't fault people for wanting to make more money when they get given the opportunity, because nobody would turn that down. You know, like if a brand says to you, like, we're going to make you a signature pedal and we'll pay you X to post about it, you're going to be like, okay, because I'm not going to make it on Spotify. So
good point. Very good point. Yeah.
But then you do end up just posting about things that you don't necessarily believe in or use. And I think that's where you kind of have to be a little bit cautious. But I don't think there's any harm in doing that kind of stuff. I think you just have to be honest about the reasons behind it.
Yes. I think if you're comfortable with doing it, then that's fine. If you feel like some sort of guilt about it, then just fucking stop, man.
Well, I mean, it would never make any sense for me to turn around and like if I started being like paid to post about like smokehouses and like barbecue joints, it would just be confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I can't eat there.
Yeah.
So, like,
I don't want to eat animals, thank you.
Yeah,
you know.
But actually that is something that I have had, like I've done gigs in places like that because we're a country band and those kind of places often like country artists and stuff, and that's the lifestyle. So from a lifestyle perspective of a country artist, it makes total sense. It's just that when personally it doesn't make any sense to me, so it would be dishonest to try and do that. But yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, you know, it is funny with that stuff, isn't it? Like you have to, like, man, being vegan and touring is fucking hard.
It's so hard.
You know, because people go like, oh, well, you can just have an avocado or something like that. And you go, yeah, you can just have an avocado. But like, you don't really carry a knife around to be able to fucking dissect the fucking thing every day.
Salt and squeeze on top, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, like, yeah, I've got bags of time to prep that shit, you know. As you know, like if you're at a kind of level where you are doing it all yourself, right? You don't have fucking spare time to dissect an avocado, you know, and shit like that. You turn up there and you go, fucking hell, I've driven 5 hours, I'm knackered. Oh yeah, I've got to load everything in, sound check, and then I've got to pack everything back down. Yeah, you just don't have time to do stuff. People think that you're on a luxury fucking double-decker nightliner, you know, and that you're playing 1,000 cap venues a night, you know. And the reality is, well, for me, the reality is you're in a fucking shit van with shit food, you know, in a shit hotel, playing shit venues to no one. I
mean, yeah, we've definitely had some ridiculous experiences on tour. And when it comes to food, I've had the worst end of that because of the fact that I am a fussy eater, because of the fact that I'm vegetarian. It's not like it defines me or anything. It's not something I normally think about. It's just that when you're on the main problem I found is just that UK service stations consist of a McDonald's, a KFC, and a Burger King. And if you're lucky, a Leon. The good service stations have a Leon.
And Marks and Spencer's.
And yeah, either a Marks and Spencer's or just like a tiny corner shop. And it really doesn't leave you with very much choice. And the only one that's open 24 hours is McDonald's. So when you finish a gig and you've got a 6-hour drive home and you leave the venue at 11:30, you are having French fries and a milkshake, because
you are.
And it's really hard. And we got really good at like meal prepping, but you can only meal prep so far in advance, depending on how far you're going and like how long you're traveling for. So, we would take a cooler box with, like the guys were eating like tuna rice and sweet corn and stuff, and like meal prepping. But you can only really meal prep for like 2 or 3 days without
access. You're going to get fucking food poisoning.
Yeah. And that's harder when you can't eat canned things like tuna to give you protein and stuff. And I'm just like, well, I can make some falafel. But it does get really difficult. And I did have a proper meltdown once in a service station, because I was so hungry. And the only thing they had was a Costa and a KFC. So the guys were tucking into this like huge bucket of chicken. And the only thing I could have at Costa was like a cheese sandwich. And I just cried. I was just like, I'm so hungry. You don't understand. I don't want a cheese sandwich. I want food. Just like, but I think that was obviously the downside of like budget touring. Because of course, at the time when we were doing it, they were small shows. We were driving around in my Volkswagen Up, all 4 of us with 3 guitars laid out across our laps on the back seat. So we can't afford to go to fancy restaurants and stuff. But now that we've kind of, I wouldn't say leveled up, but like now that we're kind of working our way up the touring ladder, I know that for me, it's really important to put aside money for food. To be like, okay, we have to stop at a Tesco so I can buy myself the things I need to eat when we're on the road, because otherwise you do just end up getting unhealthy. And I know that in January of 2019, we toured every single day from January till April. And by the end of it, I got laryngitis and I got sick, and I had to spend like 3 weeks recovering because I'd put myself through so much in such a short space of time. So I think it's really important to take care of your health that way and to make sure you're eating correctly and stuff. But it is just really hard when you don't have the time and you're in a venue and you've got to just Deliveroo, and the only thing available is whatever you can get your hands on.
Yeah, it's tough. The amount of times where I've had to like go back on being vegan just to eat, because like there's nothing around, and then you have like a guilt thing about that too. It's a really like weird thing, and especially as a vocalist, and especially as at the time I was the only one that could drive.
Oh,
so everyone else is drinking alcohol and having fucking good times. I'm like bug-eyed awake from the first thing in the morning till the last thing at night, parking the van or doing all that bollocks, And
it's just draining. Like, it's an exhausting lifestyle. It's no surprise that when you look at pretty much every musician in history, they've done some form of drugs or they've taken substances to help them, because it is, without help and without the proper funding, it is the kind of lifestyle that just requires like aid.
It does, because also as well, there's like the boredom factor. It's like you're in the venue, you can't really leave the venue because you're at work. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to go around the corner to a restaurant and get a pizza or something. It's like, well, that's fucking expensive for a start. And
the problem is when you do it every day for a year, it becomes expensive, doesn't it? Like,
yeah. And like when I go out on the road and do like other jobs, I always say like, I have a PD of £20 a day, and they go, it's usually 10 to 15. I go, well, the thing is, man, is that I know my job right now is to drive and tech and stuff, but I need to be eating as properly as I can, because if I'm tired, I've got a whole band and other crew that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And you
don't want to put on a bad show, and you don't want to be in a bad mood and get hangry or
and I get like that really easily. Like if I haven't.
Well, I didn't realize I got like that until we did that really long tour, and then I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, and I had to just apologize to the band profusely. I was like, I didn't mean to yell at you in the service station. I'm just hungry. Okay, like please don't hate me. It's just that. Yeah, you do need to just take care of yourself, because it's an exhausting thing, but it's so worth it.
The thing is though, like, when you have like, the last like, well, before the world stopped spinning. You know, like we went out, we were like touring heavy and recording a record at the same time, as you know, same time that you guys were out on the road. And we were out, you know, playing with massive wagons, and they're playing like, at the time, they're playing like 500, 750 cap venues a night. None of their fans liked us, and that's fine. But it was wonderful to play full venues and, you know, have your amps up loud and all that shit every night. It was wonderful. But when you then have to come back down from that and then play like, you know, the Cunt and Trumpet in Leicester or something, you know, like
Oh yeah, I've been there.
The Ferret and Radiator in Bracknell.
Yeah. I mean, and it is just so bizarre, like, because obviously we all worked as well, and
totally.
even we did. So in 2019, we did 155 shows.
I remember looking at your calendar because you were telling me about it.
Yeah,
because you did the Gangster Grass tour.
We did, and it was amazing. Oh, I love those guys so much, and they're coming back this year, which is awesome.
Are they sick?
So I'm super excited to see them again. But yeah, so we did the Gangster Grass tour in January, then we did Ariel Posen's tour in February. Plus, we filled in every day that was available with my own shows in between. And then we did our actual own tour at the end of the year, but we had all the festivals and everything. Like, that year was mental. But it's so funny looking back on it, because at the time I remember being like, it's not enough. Like, I want more. We need more dates. There's like 365 days in a year. Why aren't we working for half?
Yeah, I know so many artists around the world, right? I'm friends with so many people who I've worked with or admired or got in contact with one for another. I do not know anyone who tours as much as Katy Hurt.
I love it. I can't.
You are the most hardcore road dog.
I just love it. Like, and it's so funny because at the time when you're literally like exhausted and starving, and you're like, and like we're so funny because we're very fortunate. Like, we stay with family up and down the country. Between the four of us in the band, we have family all over the country. So very rarely stay in hotels. I think we've only ever stayed in Airbnbs, and at best they're like one room Airbnbs that we like all sleep on the floor, and we just have like a sleepover, and it's like amazing. We are like properly hardened to it because we love it. But it's so funny because at the time I remember being like, it's not enough shows, like we're really not doing very well, like I've got to book more, I've got to, you know, work harder, people won't take us seriously if we're only doing 150 shows, which is insane thinking back on it. I was just like, wow, I was so like she needed to calm down. But yeah,
you want it.
and it's,
if you want it hard enough, you'll go and get it, right?
Even after, you know, like, but even throughout that, we were working regular jobs to pay for it because it wasn't paying, you know. Right. Most of those shows didn't cover the cost of doing them. It was just that we wanted to play and we wanted to be on the road, and I wanted to be telling people about Unfinished Business because the EP had come out, and it meant
fucking great EP, by the way.
Thank you. And so it was just totally worth it. But there were some definitely questionable moments where, like, the worst one was like doing a Dundee show on a Sunday night, and then Gab and Joe shared the drive back that night. It was a 10-hour drive because the boys had work Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I remember that. I remember you telling me about that when I went to visit you in that house.
And it was just insane. And I was working 3 days a week, a shift from 5 a.m. till 2 so that we could do all the afternoon shows. So I would finish a show on a Wednesday night, and Thursday morning at 5 a.m. I would be at work. Just because I think that when you want something and when you know that it matters to you, you kind of make time for it. But looking back on it, I was like, I was crazy. What was I doing? Like, how did I do that?
Yeah. I spent so much of 2019 away from home. You know, and for me at the time it was great actually, but like as you know, but like, you know, it physically, there's something about it where it only hurts when you stop. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were like similar to you on that 2019, it was from January the 15th till the end of June of that year. We were recording in the week and then going out on tour on the weekend, coming back, going back in the studio constantly. There wasn't a time off. And I was also doing a master's degree at the same time, writing a dissertation. So it was like,
I don't think
brilliant.
I could have done a master's degree on top of it.
Oh my God. You know, it was.
How on earth?
I don't know. I couldn't do it now.
But it is just hilarious. Like now, having spent so much time at home, it's really weird for me, and I still haven't gotten used to it. And I definitely sleep too much now because I like just don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
But it's so funny how our bodies, it is that thing of like things in motion stay in motion, and you know that scientific rule. I can't remember which one it is, but that, you know, things at rest stay at rest.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Going
to the supermarket now is like an all-day trip for me.
Yeah, it's like, I can't wait for Thursday. I can't wait to go to Tesco's. Yeah.
What are you doing that day? I'm literally just going to get up, go to the supermarket, come home, unpack the shopping. I'm like, what am I doing with my time? Like, this is so strange to me. Being at home this much is definitely, I mean, it's obviously been really good from a health perspective to look back and be like, okay, how, and actually now that we've done it, being like, right, how can we make sure that we don't ever get ourselves into some of those situations again? And like, we really think about this.
It's a time of reflection, really, isn't it?
But on the other hand, it kind of is like rejuvenated me, and I'm like, let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah. I've had slightly the opposite way with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where people are like, oh man, you know, what you're doing is like, well, put a full stop on being in a rock band to start another one. You know, like, cool. And it's like finalized a divorce and moved out of Brighton, you know, which has been fun, you know.
Yeah.
I've got a baby on the way, which I cannot fucking wait, you know. And in that time, it's like people are like, oh man, can I book your new band and stuff? And I'm like, no.
No.
And they're like, why? I'll give you a good slot. And I'm like, no.
Thank you.
I have no intention of playing a fucking show with my new stuff for a couple of years. I just don't. The thing is, like,
I think you need time to process just how much you've been through and how much we've all been through in the past year. It's kind of strange when I think about it. I'm like, oh, I've had a year off, and then I'm like, no, I haven't.
No, you haven't.
Global pandemic, like, this has been a lot.
Yeah, it hasn't been a year off, and that's what people seem to think is it's not.
But like, yeah, I think you need time to process it, and also it's a new band, and you want time to like refine your sound, write some songs and stuff. It totally makes sense that you would want to wait from that, and also you're just starting a new family. So
yeah, exactly, you know, and when you're in the, you know, maybe sometimes I think maybe I was very deluded in my ability as a musician, you know, with like how much I'd put in and what didn't come back out of the dolls, you know. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that. It's not a negative thing. It's like, you know, just like, wow, that's just the facts and that's just the way it is, you know. Like, we were a band.
It is. Sorry.
Yeah. Things will never be the same, you know. Yeah, maybe, you know, you have this, you know, since I played my first gig at 11 years old. I moved to the UK when I was 18, and I've been gigging, touring, writing and recording ever since, you know.
It's so funny when people say things like, oh, you're a new artist. I still get it even now. And I'm like, I have literally been doing this since I was 12.
Yeah.
Like, I am a decade in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a new artist. But
I am literally 22, 23 years into being a professional musician, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but it's just like, I think when people hear you for the first time, or if they, you know, when you finally release an album or something, they're like, oh, you're a new artist. It's like, no, it just took me this long to figure stuff out.
It takes time sometimes, yeah, because I'm not fucking made of money, funny enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a bizarre thing. Yeah, totally. That's the other thing with it as well, right? People seem to think like, oh, like, so you're doing it full time. I go, yes, I am being a musician full time, but that doesn't mean I'm sitting around in a fucking hot tub drinking fucking Moe.
Oh, I wish.
It's, you know, yeah, fucking right. You know, it's like, we have, you know, I've got a family of what's about to be 3 kids, you know, and I teach and I lecture and I do songwriting sessions and all these other things. It's not just this.
I think the only way that you can really survive as a musician now is to actually kind of be a jack of all trades type.
Oh yeah,
like, there's not you can't just be a singer now. No. Because that it doesn't exist anymore. Like that, there isn't the infrastructure to do that. You have to teach, and you have to come up with other creative outlets. And amazingly, the music industry is diverse enough that you can be a musician and a website designer because it's practical and it works with what you do. And like, you just have to find the things that make it work for you. And I've done so many odd jobs. Like, there was literally a point where I had like 5 part-time jobs at once because I could do them all on different days at different times just to make it work.
Yeah.
And now I was like, okay, I have to come up with a more practical way of doing this because that's a little bit crazy. But like, you eventually settle into like, okay, how can I earn enough money to survive? Not just to like live, but just to, you know, just to get by. And then how can I make what I love make me some money? And so it's, you know, you have to just kind of learn how to do it all.
Yeah, it's like coming back to like the not gigging thing with that is that if I don't play guitar or exercise that muscle, I will fucking end up jumping out of a window. I really will. Like,
yeah, it is addictive.
It's part of like, I look at it as a vital organ.
Yeah.
Writing songs is you know, part of my makeup. It's part of my DNA, you know.
It's like journaling.
Yeah, big time.
I've tried actually journaling and I'm not very good at it because I can't make myself be consistent at it. But then when I write songs, it's just, here's how I'm feeling. So it's like, that's your outlet. And it is really important that people, if they have something like that, they just do it because it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's the thing with it. It's like, well, I can still be in a band and I can still do this and I can still do that without having to do a gig. Because I'm just aiming all my stuff as like, I'm constantly writing, you know, like I've got the first 2 EPs of my new band done.
Can I hear them, by the way? Because I really want to hear them.
Yes, you can hear snippets later on, you know, and
snippet from the album.
Yeah, snippets from the album, man, you know. And then and it's also the time when you can go, well, I can finish off this country record that I started a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And which is a very wonderful, tenuous link to say that you're writing the record with me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very grateful for that, you know. It's such a wonderful. This is what we were saying this the other week, weren't we, in another session when people are like, why don't you just write stuff on your own? And I go, do you know what, man? Because I have so much fun. Whether it's not that I'm unable to do it. Let's just clarify that. It's not that I'm unable to do this.
You get something different out of it, though. Writing
it's a very different thing. Writing with someone that both of you have the same goal. It's quite the thing. It's, you know, it's quite how can there's like an epiphany, an awakening with it. Sounds a bit wet, I know, but like it is like that, you know.
Well, that's why you hear about like legendary songwriting pairs or groups of people. Like when you find someone who understands you the way that you're feeling and you're able to write a song, to create music with that, it is really just a magical feeling.
It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
I'm really, really lucky because I write with Gab Shapka.
Yeah.
All the time. So the Unfinished Business EP, the Pieces of Me EP, and this new album that I have coming out were all co-written with him, and a couple other people. But it's just because when you find someone, it just makes sense. So like my guitar skills aren't the best, and I've been really learning and practicing and stuff and trying to, but I've always been a singer and a songwriter, and I always just played the guitar to allow me to do the other things. It was never like I'm a guitarist.
Yeah.
But when
you're going to be a ripper in like 6 months though now, aren't you?
No, I am. I'm trying. I have my heart set on learning some Eagles songs, so I have my work cut out for me.
Well, you've got like 2 amazing Telecasters though.
I have guitars. Yeah,
you have some sick.
I have these, like my incredible band, Steve, Joe, and Gab. They're all like proper musicians.
You're a proper musician.
And then, when I came into it though, I was just like, I had these songs and I had like my voice, and I do think it's really important that people realize that vocalists are instrumentalists. And
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Being a vocalist is really hard.
Yeah.
But the problem with being a vocalist is that you don't really have to ever actually learn the technical stuff. So I've been singing forever, but I didn't start learning music theory until I met the band. So I didn't know what I was doing. I was just singing.
Into the wonderful world of modes.
Yeah. Oh, modes. I hate modes so much. You don't.
It's all about Lydian, man. It's all about sweet, sweet Lydian.
I can name them all, but I don't know what they do.
What's your favourite one?
Super Locrian. Mixolydian. Phrygian. Dorian and Ionian. I don't know. They're all good. They're all just different, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. Like, I didn't know what any of that meant, and I barely do now. But I was a singer, and so being with the guys, I was like, I have to level up. Like, they make me want to be a better musician, and so I ended up. I work with Tanglewood, so I got my. I've been really, really lucky, actually. I worked with Yamaha and Tanglewood, so I actually have 2 acoustic teams that I work with, and so I play the CPX 1200 Yamaha, and I play my Tanglewood, which is not in the room. I was going to show it to you, but it's not here. Which I just love, and it's basically it's shaped like an old Gibson is it JW40? Is that what they're called?
J200?
No,
might be a JW40.
Maybe.
I don't know, because I don't know what it looks like.
That old shape that's like.
Oh right, yeah, JW40.
You know the one. Guitars.
I actually do know the one you mean.
But yeah, so I play those, and I love them to pieces. They're both amazing instruments, and. Then I had been looking for an electric guitar for ages online, and I wanted something cool, but I didn't know what I wanted because I didn't really
had
play
to have a Telecaster. You're a fucking country star.
But then I found this picture of one that was on the internet, and it was white and gold, and everything was white and gold, and I was like, I'm obsessed. But I couldn't find them anywhere, and so the boys kept an eye out for one for me online, and I had like alerts set up on Google, and they just didn't exist because they were like a limited run. And then I popped up on like eBay one day, and somebody had the white and gold one and the black and silver matching pair. And they were selling them both. And they were like, you can only buy them as a pair. Like, they're twins. They can't be separated. I was like, they are mine. And just drove to Oxford and bought them. I had to call my dad. I called my dad on the way to Oxford. This is how crazy I am sometimes. I don't know how I can't get away with this. I definitely could not afford to buy both guitars, right? I'd saved up to buy one guitar. But I knew I had to have them, and this is so like ridiculous. But I was like, well, I'm going to tell the guy I'm going to come, and I'm going to drive to Oxford. And on the way to Oxford, I called my dad. I was like, so Dad, can you loan me like the next 3 Christmases and birthdays? And he was like, why? And I was like, I just need a little bit of help. I'm on my way to Oxford. He was like, what do you mean you're on your way to Oxford? I was like, I'm on my way to Oxford to buy a guitar. And I sent him the picture, and he was like, Catherine, I swear.
Catherine.
I paid him back immediately because I had to borrow I think I borrowed like £500 from him.
Fuck.
But I'd saved up the rest, and I bought both of them, and they're amazing, and I love them to pieces. I do need to change the pickups though, because
I love it. See, this is it. You've already got it. You're like, yeah, it's like, I'm just going to file the nut down and take the buzz out the low B, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, I do think they both have, what are they called? They're the Filtertrons.
Filtertrons, yeah.
Yeah, they both have Filtertrons on them, and it's just not quite giving me the tone that I want. I hate that I know that.
You have well and truly, you've got gas, which is, I can't remember what they call it. Like Gibb-Cest syndrome or something.
But I do think they're amazing. And then I also have an Aria Strat, which was Gab's, and I bought it off him because I wanted it. I was like, this is mine.
You've got like a sweet collection of guitars, man. You got the Telly Twins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that white and gold one. I remember. No, I came round, didn't I? When you just had them.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are.
You just had the twins.
The twins. When I just had my twins. Yeah, they're amazing. And do you know what makes me really happy about it though? Is because honestly, like, I want to make our shows special. Like, the thing that always strikes me is like, people. Obviously, this is what I do, and it's what I want to do, and it's what I want to make money doing. So it never occurred to me to do anything else. Since the age of like 13, this is all I've ever wanted to do. Mm. But I'm well aware of the fact that other people spend their hard-earned money on me. Yes. Like, it's not lost on me. So when somebody buys a t-shirt for £20, and I know because I've worked minimum wage jobs enough now, I'm like, that's like 3 or 4 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
every time somebody buys a mug or a t-shirt or a bobble hat from the website, I think about that in terms of like, how long have they worked just to be able to support me making music as a living? And so when people buy concert tickets and they choose to not only spend their money, but also spend their precious time coming to see me, I'm so grateful for that. Like, I can't even begin to express how much that means to me, because it's all I've ever wanted. And so it really does just mean the world. And so I want the shows to be special. I want people to come and have a fun night and get something out of the songs, have the songs mean something to them, enjoy themselves, have a drink, like I want the whole experience to be fun. Because I'm just aware that, like, if you only get the chance to go out once a week and you've chosen to spend your money to come see me, I don't want it to be lame. I don't want you to go away and be like, I hated that. Can't believe I wasted my evening, And so when I got the 2 guitars, I was like, well, this is cool. Now I'm going to have outfit changes and I can make it like a spectacle. And like, I can detune one and I can have one for some songs and one for the other. And so I kind of justified the cost in my head of being like, it's going to make the whole experience better.
Yeah, but they look cool. That is part of it, right?
Yeah.
You don't, it's like, I remember when I did that, when I got the Silver Sky, right, from PRS, and it was like the last one it was the last one in Europe of the first batch made. And then it was like the first one in the world which has lace sensors put in it. And it started getting posted on forums and shit like that. People started messaging me purely just because I had it with laces, and it was nuts. I took it out on the road, and people were coming up and just going, I just came here to see what the Silver Sky sounded like. And I was like, cool. And they're like, sounds great. I was like, do you want to buy a CD? Maybe like me on Facebook. And they're like, nah, I just saw it in a forum, and fair play, mate. Yeah, crack.
Yeah, I mean,
they're like, good luck.
Guitar, like, I've definitely learned. Like, we played NAMM in January.
Yeah, you fucking played NAMM, man.
Oh, that was insane for me, because I've obviously been first of all, it was the first gig I ever played in LA, which is friggin' awesome, because
that's sick.
LA, baby.
LA, baby.
And Gab and I were in Canada working on the album, and then we got the slot at NAMM, and we literally had to book flights from Winnipeg to LA and back so that we could, and like push the studio time so that we could do the show. Because I was like, I'm not canceling NAMM, right? Like, I'm going to NAMM. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And it was super stressful because the only clothes I had packed were clothes for Winnipeg, which is -30. And then all of a sudden I was in LA and it was like 60 degrees in the summer. Yeah. And it's just like, what? In January, sorry, not the summer. It's literally, but LA is gorgeous all the time. But yeah, we went to NAMM and it was crazy. And it was the noisiest place I've ever been in my entire life. Like, can you imagine? Like, any person who's ever debated buying a musical instrument will have gone to a music shop on a weekend, and you will always have some guy doing the most to practice like shredding on like a guitar in the middle of the guitar store. And it's just like,
why, mate?
Why are you doing that? Stairway to Heaven. You always hear Stairway to Heaven. Somebody's playing Smoke on the Water. There's kids in the drum room practicing drums. And that's just like in an Andertons on a Saturday, right? But NAMM, like, can you imagine what happens when you get like 2,000 musicians in a room full of new toys and then you only give them 24 hours? It was like, I'm not surprised. They actually have people walking around with noise sensors and they kick you out if you're too noisy because it's so loud in there. The drum section in particular was the worst. They had a wall of cymbals and a bucket of sticks, and it was just like, go crazy. It's just like, what are they doing? But yeah,
the guitarist nightmare is cymbals.
But we played NAMM and it was absolutely amazing. And we played on the plaza stage outside. So there's like palm trees lining the crowd. I lost my mind. It was the first time they had like the huge billboards either side of the stage. And so I turned around and there was like a 20-foot me. And I was like, oh, what? Just like could not believe it. I was like, this is amazing. Do I look skinny? Just like, what's happening?
Damn Instagram.
But yeah, no, it was amazing. We got the chance to play NAMM, and I got the chance to work with some incredible brands, curling cables. Like, we didn't have any gear because we literally, when we got there, I was like, right, our only mission is to get enough people to lend us stuff for the show because we don't have any gear because we're
floating in. Yeah.
So I went to Yamaha. I was like, guys, can I borrow a guitar? We're going to be playing on the Plaza stage in an hour. They're like, yeah. Carl cables. I was like, can I have 2 cables? I need one for my mic and one for my guitar. They're like, absolutely. And it was just amazing. And it was such a collaborative process. Just basically like shopping for the perfect stage kit.
That's so good. That's so good.
But yeah, no, I've definitely learned as a musician just how much musicians love gear.
Oh yeah.
As a singer, like, it's pretty boring. Like, you don't really think about it. You're like, can my mic be sparkly or not? Like,
will it affect the stuff inside the microphone if I put diamante?
Can I rhinestone it? Will it be all gold? That's all I need to know. Like, you know, I'd never considered how much effort has to go into the setup of what goes on for a live show until the point at which I tried to put the contents of our live show in my Volkswagen up and realized just how much stuff you need.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I stage managed the main stage at the UK Guitar Show in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stage managing Paul Gilbert, fucking jazz bass player like Paul Bellatucci. And
nice.
Yeah, he was amazing. And Devin Townsend had to stage manage him, you know, and Eric Gales was on my stage. The most hardest thing in my life I've ever had to do is tell Eric Gales he's run out of time. He was just like, what's up? And he was just like free forming like this jam with some guy. And I'm like, this is sick. And then like, you know, you get
Eric, can you
I was just like, I was like, he had like a manager with him, right? And I was trying to like tap him on the shoulder, and I was like, he's had enough time, and the guy was just like just didn't care. He's like, I ain't telling him, mate. You know, so I was like, okay. So I literally on a main stage, right, a packed auditorium, I have to like walk out on ground level and just be like, you like that. And he went, cool, man, like that. And then people were going like, boo at me and stuff. I was like, oh my God, like, it's not my, you know, I'm just doing my job, you know. And the crowd were literally going like, boo, you're killing the fun. I'm like,
sorry.
I'm not, you know, I'm only.
We actually had a similar
fuck all for this as well. Like, come on.
We had a similar experience. We did a festival, and the sound engineer before the festival was like, if you overrun, I will shut everything down. He was like, I cut the sound on the Chili Peppers at Glastonbury once. Like, I will shut you down. And we were like, okay, man.
Cool, dude. Great story. Yeah.
Like, promise, like, we've timed the set. Like, honestly, we're not going to overrun. And then he did the same thing. He came out in front of the stage and he was like, we were like, I had a timer on the floor and it said I had 20 minutes left when he came out and was doing this. I was like, I'm so confused. We had a half-hour set, right? He came out 10 minutes into the set to do this. And then 5 minutes later, he just shut the power down. He was like, you were going to overrun, I could tell. It's like, we had 15 minutes left. Yeah, but I could tell. No, you couldn't. What are you doing? So, yeah.
The difference on that one to me is like Eric Gales was 15 minutes over the time he had to stop.
I literally went off stage and I was like, this is the timer. We have 15 minutes left. But yeah, he was power hungry.
Yeah, I was shit scared being stage manager. I was like, cool, yeah, do it. And then I got the short straw of the main stage. Although I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I've got the main stage. And then I got the thing through of like,
who was going to be on
who was on it. And I was like, oh, my first artist is Paul Gilbert. Like, fuck.
That must have been a fun day though, getting to meet all those people.
Yeah, it was. There was like a thing though of like, they were, and this is, I get it, you know, I think they naturally viewed me as like this bad guy. Because they were like, oh, you're a stage manager. And I was like, yeah, man, my name's Nikki. You know, anything you want, just come to me or get your team to come to me and I'll sort it out. And every request that was made, I delivered on. And at the end of it, they were like, "You were brilliant, thank you so much." But at the beginning, it was like they were just like, "This fat tattooed guy is not going to fucking do shit." You know what I mean? Like they're just like,
Oh, you
they're
are
like,
not
"Who's this?"
fat.
I am. It's fine. You know, it's like, and it was like, you know, I get it. You know, you've toured the world, you know, and had like Nick Beggs and stuff, who was in like Kajagoogoo and shit. You know, it's just like, and he's like the most unreal bass player. So, and I had like people like him on there, you know, and afterwards they were the loveliest people. But beforehand, you know, they were like,
It's so crazy. It's so crazy when you're kind of starting out in music and you get these opportunities to meet people who you've kind of idolized. And I say starting out, and I don't mean that because we're newbies, but I just mean as you're on your way kind of through the ladder of the music industry.
Yeah.
And you get opportunities. Like some of the times I look back at some of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with, and I'm just absolutely staggered. And I'm just like, how did I
get here?
Yeah. And also, how was I not freaking out more on the day? And it's normally because I was too panicked and stressed about our own set to even like acknowledge what was going on.
Yeah.
But like we've had some incredible opportunities. Like the funniest one though was opening for Liam Gallagher. Right. We didn't get to meet him. We played, and then security came backstage. They're like, "You're done now. Please vacate the area." And we had to go and stand in the pit outside the front of the stage because we weren't allowed to go into the main crowd area. And he came backstage. They like dropped him at the stage. Like his car pulled up to the stage, and then he did his set and he got back in the car and drove away. And then they came back and they're like, "You can come backstage now." It's just like, what?
It's crazy, isn't it? And then you get some people, years and years ago when I was really young, when I was like 17, I did like stage ushering, crowd ushering. So it's like cleaning seats before people would come and sit in the seats and shit like that, you know. But it was for like some music events that were happening in Jersey. And my first one was busted.
Amazing.
And I slipped and I put my hand through Charlie Simpson's guitar case.
No.
And I was just like, fell like that, naturally like slipped, right? Okay, because someone had like put water on the floor. And I was like, you know, sweeping it up and all that type of stuff. And I was like, oh, there's some more. And as I went to like, I was carrying water to put like water out on every couple of seats because it was a really hot open thing in the summer, Jersey. I slipped and I went, whew, and his guitar case, for some reason, all their guitar cases were in the crowd stand, and I slipped and I went like that, and my palm just went hoink and went through like the polystyrene bit of his guitar case, and I was mortified. And his tech was like, "Don't worry about it, mate." And I was like, you could see I was like, you know what I mean? And he was like, "Honestly, mate, just don't worry about it." You know, he said, "That's what they're for, right?" You know, type of thing. I was like, "Oh, okay," you know. And then
I definitely had a busted poster on my bedroom wall growing up.
Yeah, I didn't meet him. McFly played as well, and Lionel Richie.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Lionel Richie, like, it was one of those things where like sometimes you'd be up at the top and sometimes you'd be on the ground level. And we're just alternating all the time. And they were like, "Do you want to take the down bit?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, do you mind? Because the down bit is more, there's no one there, you know, and it's more like if someone needs the toilet, you can just point them in the direction and all that stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I've just done I did like 2 or 3 stints up in the stands." And as I went down, they were like, "Lionel Richie's going to be coming on the stage in a minute." And Lionel Richie just came right past me, and I could feel, you know, like Mean Girls, like there's word vomit coming out my mouth. And I went, "I'm a musician. I want to be successful." Like, oh, yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And they all came over to me, and they went, "It's okay, man." They went, just don't ever quit. And they all gave me like a high five. Like Lionel Richie gave me a high five. His guitar player was that. I was like, I'm a musician too. I'm one of you guys. You know, you know. And
the only time I've ever done like that exact thing of like word vomit was when I met Leanne Rimes. Like, I'm normally pretty calm, and like I don't want to be like, I don't want to make a fool of myself. So I try really, really hard not to. But when I met Leanne Rimes, I swear to God, she floated into the room and I just couldn't speak. I was just beside myself. That woman is a literal angel. And like, she was wearing this like yellow silk dress, right?
Amazing.
And she was just gliding. I've never seen anybody move that way. It was amazing. I was like, you are unreal. She was just like floating around, like, hi, I'm Leanne. I was just like, I've loved you forever. Just, you're so pretty. And I think you're really pretty and you can sing really well. And I just was like a mess. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe she's going to hate me. I sing too. And I tried to be you once and like just couldn't process the words.
It's fucked, isn't it? It's like there's times when you're just like, you can't control it.
Like, you just, I don't know if this is the same way for you. I assume it is because it's how most musicians are. But like when you're a kid and you find a song that means something to you, it's your whole world.
It's your fucking world, yeah.
And like I can't even begin to tell you how. Like I don't even know what would happen if I met Dolly Parton. I think I would just faint. Like I honestly don't think I could handle it. Like these people, especially like Leanne Rimes and stuff, they were my whole like. They're everything I've wanted to be. So like when you finally meet one, it's just like, oh my God, you're real. You're not just a piece of paper that like sings to me sometimes when I'm sad. Like, you know, so it is just really hard to not be like a total fangirl.
Totally. Well, I'm like that with Ian Thornley from Big Wreck and the band Thornley. Like, yeah, that guy has honestly saved my life. You know, like, I had another mental health blip in like 2017 and it was awful. It was a terrible time in my life. And the only real thing that honestly got me through was the fact that I was making a record and I was listening to Big Wreck. That was literally it. Nothing else helped. I was abusing my body left, right and center as well. You know, refused help, like medical help. Don't know why. You know, but if I ever met Ian Thornley, you know, as much as I don't want to be that guy,
they've saved your life because music genuinely does. It heals you.
Yeah, I have to. I really want, one of my things, like I really want to meet Ian Thornley and just say thank you.
Yeah.
For that, you know, like I honestly wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. You know what I mean? And it sounds super fucking.
I got the chance to do that to one of my idols, which was awesome. But like I've met Hunter Hayes a couple times. And
no way. He's cool.
He's awesome. And and I remember like the second or third, the first time I met him was in the alley outside the gig. And I had gone round the back of the venue and I was like, I'm going to give him my CD. I'm just going to give him my CD. And I just handed it to him. And I was like, please listen to this. I wish to God I hadn't now because listening back to that record, it was so bad. Can't believe that. If he even listened to it, I can't believe that's what he thinks of me. But the second time I met him, I had just had my operation. And so I literally
we'll come to that.
Yeah. I was like, you don't understand. Like, thank you for making the music you did. Because it genuinely, I listened to this in the car on the way and like, it gave me like strength and faith and it made me feel good. And like, thank you. And yeah, it's really weird actually getting the chance to thank someone for the impact they've had on your life. And obviously it must be really strange for artists because like, I've had a couple people message me about Unfinished Business meaning a lot to them. And I get overwhelmed when people just sing it back to me. I can't imagine how amazing it must feel to know that your song has genuinely helped or affected someone in that way, to know that you managed to write how someone else was feeling.
Yeah.
So it must be pretty special. But yeah, it is an amazing feeling. So if you ever get the chance to meet him, you should definitely say thank you for helping.
Yeah, I really will, you know, even if it like kind of makes him think I'm a dickhead, you know, I have to say it, like, you know, like to it. It's just, you know, every so often you have artists in your life that are just so kind of, I don't know, that they just mean everything to you and they do literally save your life type of thing. You know, it's like, you know, it's quite the special thing. Do you know what I mean? So, but let's talk about, you know, apart from Hunter Hayes, who's a beast, because he's like a multi-instrumentalist as well, right? He plays like drum. He
plays like 23 different instruments.
Does he?
Yeah. He can pretty much play anything. Like his first album, he played every instrument on the record, and live he plays all sorts. Like, it's quite funny actually. This is how much of a fan I am of his. There's videos of him at like the age of 4 playing the accordion, playing jambalaya on the accordion at like bluegrass jams and stuff. Yeah, like he's like a proper prodigy. He won like America's Most Talented Kids when he was like 12 or something.
Is he like legit like on it as well? Like he's like legit good?
Yeah, like he's ridiculously talented when it comes to just playing everything. Like I've seen him play piano, mandolin, fiddle, drums, bass. Like, it's insane. Like, he can just do all of it. And
that's
like
fucking nuts.
Fiddle, and like I think the accordion was his first instrument. So at the age of like 4, you're like, how are you doing?
You know,
4-year-old me would not have been capable of having the coordination required to do that.
I was probably putting fucking mud pies in my face with worms and shit.
I was putting crayons up my nose. How was he playing an instrument at like proficient musical level? But yeah, super talented guy, and he's really good and just a really nice guy as well. And he makes amazing music. But yeah, he definitely helped. I kind of fell in love with his first album at the right time in my life. I think that's the other thing about music. It hits you at the right time.
Yeah.
When you find it. So like I can remember when I listened to John Mayer for the first time. And like how much his music affected me when I discovered it. I think, and also like when there's certain artists, they release albums at like important periods in your life.
Yeah.
Like each album is the soundtrack to like a different type of moment in your life. John Mayer is someone like that because he takes a couple years and things change, and then the new album comes out and you've grown up with his music, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I had that with Continuum. That came out when I was in my second year at college, and I'd moved from London after witnessing a murder and then coming down to Brighton.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a bit of a bumpy start, and yeah, that whole time there it's completely fucked. But that album came out at that time, and I'd only discovered him about a month before that album came out. And I was listening to like, what's the album before that? And is it Clarity? Got Clarity on it, you know? And I was just like listening to that, and I was like, fuck, this is great. Just great writing, you know? And then when
that's the one with Heartbreak Warfare on and everything.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And when Continuum came out, it was just like, yeah, you know, amazing. But yeah, so let's talk about, you know, if you're all right with it, let's talk about your operations and stuff, because apart from, you know, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, like apart from all the amazing music that you do, you're quite the up and coming icon, in my opinion.
Thanks.
for women, you know, in music and stuff. And I can say that because like we're good friends and we're writing a record and stuff together and stuff, but you've also got like an interesting personal bit. Not that we're both not like too much on the personal thing, I know, but I think this one's kind of
and thanks for asking. It's not really something I talk about, so I forget that people don't know, and it's never because I've hidden it. It's just that I kind of forget that that's something I went through. When I was about 13, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and I didn't really know what that meant at the time.
Can you explain it?
Well, there's 3 different types of scoliosis, and mine happened to be the one that's called idiopathic, which just happens for no reason. And basically your bones don't set in the right place. So my spine grew like an S instead of straight. And I think my mom had noticed I was standing like tilted.
Right.
She took me to the doctors, and she was like, and she kept saying things like, stand up straight, you need better posture, all that kind of stuff. And eventually I was like, Mom, I am standing up straight. She's like, no, you're not. And yeah, I went and they told me I had it, and I went and had an x-ray, and then there was a 3-month wait to see a consultant, and I had a growth spurt. And between the x-ray and the consultant appointment where I had a follow-up x-ray, my spine, I'd grown, or had supposedly grown. I hadn't actually grown at all in height, but what had happened is my spine had curved by about 30 degrees. And basically, instead of me getting any taller, it had just gone like this.
So it just compressed.
Yeah, basically. And And so from the age of 13 until I was 16, I wore a back brace for 23 hours a day for 3 years. And I took it off to shower, and that's pretty much it.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And
you had to sleep with it?
Yeah. So I went and had molded. They basically do a plaster cast of your entire like torso down over your hips. So it went from here, it sat just under my arm.
Yeah.
And it went over my hips. So down around your waist. And it was kind of like a corset, so that it tightened at the back.
Right.
And they could put additional like filling essentially inside it to basically force you to bend the opposite way. And they would tighten it every couple months. So yeah, I wore that for 3 years, and basically it didn't work. Because that growth spurt meant that my spine originally was at 28-degree curve, and then the new curve was like 56 degrees or 52 degrees or something like that. And they operate at 45. So I was already over the threshold, but they were trying to see if they could reverse it without surgery.
Was that because you were young?
Yeah. And still growing and stuff. And so it didn't work. So for 3 years I did that and it didn't work. And I obviously was in pain.
I was about to say, what was the pain like on that?
Unreal. It was, I think to me, the actual physical pain, like the backache, was just constant. And I kind of got to the point where I just forgot about that, because actually what was worse was the pain of the brace and the bullying that accompanied having a back brace in secondary school, and the difficulty with things like not being able to carry my school book. I couldn't lift anything. I had no mobility. I couldn't do any sports. I couldn't. So I immediately was no longer in any of the teams, and I didn't go to PE, and I went to the library and read books, which actually now is a blessing, because I, am smarter and was able to use a lot of that inspiration for writing in the first place. But, as a 14-year-old girl, that's really hard. And basically it got to the point where I went back in when I was 16, and it had continued to curve. And the problem that actually made me have surgery is that my rib cage started to rotate. So my actual spine, which was shaped like an S, started to rotate. And what happened is that my right rib cage crushed my lung. And so I was struggling to breathe. I was getting essentially asthma attacks, but they weren't asthma attacks. I was having basically hyperventilating and panic attacks. And then I'd have to I call an ambulance out, and they'd have to put me on a ventilator and help me breathe, because I couldn't get enough oxygen because my lungs were being crushed by my ribs.
Fuck.
And which is really scary.
Yeah, that's fucking terrifying.
And then I had, but what was so this was happening during my GCSEs. So I did all my GCSEs in my brace, and I was given the opportunity to pause the clock on my exams. I wasn't allowed any extra time, but I was allowed to pause if the pain got too much, so I could lie down. So I remember once it was doing an essay, and of course when you're writing for 3 hours in an English exam and you've got your arms trapped by a brace, and it was just
of course, because you're trapped like this, right?
I'm like this, right, like a robot. And I remember asking to pause the clock and literally going into the hallway outside the exam and trying to cry quietly so I didn't disturb other people's exam. And then went back in. But the other thing that was quite interesting is I was on looking back, I was on a ridiculous amount of painkillers from the hospital. I was on liquid morphine at one point. So I did my GCSEs stoned out of my mind.
Did them off your nut.
Completely high. How on earth? And I am staggered looking back that I got the grades that I did, because I got really good grades, and I don't know how I did it because I was completely high.
You need to write a song called Blame It on the Morphine.
Yeah, just completely, just bizarre. But yeah, I did my last exam, and then the next day I went in and had my operation. So I have 2 rods and 15 pins in my spine that hold it basically like a ladder. So they go literally from the top of my neck all the way down to the bottom, and they hold me up straight. And I now have a 0-degree curve, and they put my ribs back where they're supposed to be. And since the age of 16, I've had absolutely perfect posture, and it's completely fixed. But it just obviously, and I was supposed to be about 5'5", but I am instead 5 foot exactly. And prior to the operation, I was 4'10.5". So, so I gained 2.5 inches.
Every inch counts, right?
Yeah. And so now I'm 5 foot.
Fuck. So
Yeah.
are you like stuck like this now? Do you have movement, or are you like so you're pinned?
Yep. So I can move around. I can bend from the hips. I can move my arms completely freely, but I can't actually twist my spine at all. So I can't. So the most I can twist that way is like that.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, and actually it's quite interesting because like even with something like holding a guitar for long periods of time, it hadn't occurred to me just how heavy they are.
Yeah.
And that was difficult at first, getting the stamina up. And actually what was quite difficult, so I basically did no exercise because I couldn't from the age of 13 until I was signed off from all my physio post-op about 3 years after the surgery. So when I was 19.
That long? Shit.
Yeah. And so I started exercising at like 20, which is bizarre. But that's why it's really important to me to maintain like strength and stamina, because I know that my muscles basically were not given the opportunity to I didn't do sports in school. I didn't do any of that stuff. So it's really important to me to maintain like strong arms so that I don't rely on my back to lift things, and so that I can lug amps across the stage and haul, gear and all that kind of stuff.
That's the trouble being in country. You got to lug Fender Twins and shit around.
Yeah, like help loading out the drum kit and stuff. It's just like shit. Yeah. But actually no, but the crazy thing is, and it's so weird to me because it was such a huge part of my life for such a long period of time, but the moment that it went away, I'm fine. So now I'm just a scoliosis recovered, and obviously I don't have a twisted spine anymore. And much like if you ever broke your wrist and have a pin or something, you eventually it's not like something that defines you per se. It's more just like an injury that you had. It's just crazy to me looking back how much that affected me, I suppose mentally as well, because I actually left the school I was at because of the bullying I received. So when I finished my last GCSE, I never went back. I went and collected my results in a wheelchair because I had the surgery, and I had to relearn how to walk.
Oh, really? So it was. I suppose because all the muscles in your back right are they're all over the place.
They were, yeah. I mean, now it's crazy the difference that like a couple years and going to the gym will make. But yeah, at the time, after the operation, I basically had to relearn how to walk. And so I went and collected my exam results. I think it was like 5 weeks after the surgery, in a wheelchair. And I went in, and like, bear in mind, the school knew because the whole time I'd had this, back brace, and it's pretty visible, like giant chunky plastic box thing that I wore. And someone put their bag on my lap and said, "Can you just hold this? I'm going to run in and grab my results." And then the head teacher came over and was like, "Oh, what happened to you?" And I was like, "I'm done. I'm out." It definitely made me more independent, and it made me spend a lot of time in my room listening to music, and it made me read a lot of books and want to be a storyteller and want to be on stage and have presence and flair and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely shaped me a lot more than I realized. But it's so funny thinking back now because I never think about it anymore.
Yeah, well, why would you really?
Yeah. But yeah, it was. So that's my actual backstory.
Yeah, that is your actual backstory, right?
My legit backstory.
How has it affected your mental health then with that? Do you have any...
I struggled.
Do you have any problems? You know what I mean?
Well, I struggled for a really long time in school because of the bullying that accompanied it. And because I think teenage girls are really mean.
That's right. Yeah. School's horrific.
I wish I could go back and talk to some of those girls again and just be like, do you actually understand like what the lasting impact was? And I mean that not in a mean way. I don't want to go back and yell at them. I want to sit down and just be like, do you even remember? Because that's the thing. Like in school, you say things, and I think like kids like forget. I'm sure I've probably done it too, and just completely forgotten. And sometimes you say things, and it lasts.
Oh yeah, I wasn't an angel either. It's
whole
like
life. Yeah, but
I
that
was 20, but
definitely,
also I said stupid shit.
that definitely made it really hard for me to find friends and to trust people, and it made me more introverted, which is why I ended up falling in love with music. And then I was really, really lucky that I moved schools to do my A levels. And it was so awkward, right? Because bear in mind, you have like, was it 8 weeks off in the summer?
Yeah, something
Cool.
like that. Yeah.
So I finished my GCSEs. I had the operation. And then 6.5 weeks later, I started a new school.
In a wheelchair.
But I wasn't in a wheelchair at that point. I'd already relearned how to walk because I was determined, right? I had the fastest recovery they've ever seen from the operation. I left the hospital in 3 days, having already taught myself, like picked myself up, walked up a flight of stairs and been like, I'm done with this shit. I was like, I have spent 3 years wearing that stupid brace. I've gone through all this pain. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. Once the operation happened, I was like, right, what do I have to do? What's the physio? Like,
yeah,
I'm done with this. Like I was completely ready. I don't know how I mentally got myself prepared to do that, but I was like, get me out of the hospital, get me home. I need to be recovered. I'm starting a new school. I have to do my A levels. And this is all just a lot, but I had to wear a brace post-op for a year to support me because of how weak my spine was and how fragile it was. So I started the new school in a different type of brace, and they were amazing. I went to Farnborough Hill for sixth form, and they were absolutely amazing. And I cannot thank that enough. Shout out. They moved all of the classrooms that I would have had to the ground floor. So I didn't have to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't have to walk up any stairs. They did like an intro day where they introduced me to the year group, and they basically explained the story to everyone. And they were like, Katie's going to need help. Can somebody carry her? Who's in her classes? Someone has to volunteer to carry her bags. And of course, you can imagine, for me, this was like terrifying. I had to stand up in front of like 40 people and be like, you don't know me, but now you have to help me because the teachers have said so. And you can carry my stuff. Like, I was mortified. And based on my experience at the previous school, I assumed that it was going to be awful. And actually what happened is I made the best friends, and they're still my best friends to this day. And I still talk to them every week, and they're absolutely amazing, and they're angels. And I made some incredible friends. I got people being like, oh, help, that's no problem at all. Like, just a completely different environment. And it was so completely foreign to me. So I basically like made my friends for the first time in sixth form, and then I put out my first EP, and I remember taking in the CDs to school and being like, guys, I made this. Can I, like, do you want to listen to it? And everybody wanted to listen to it. They were really supportive. And that was just so bizarre to me. But yeah. And so I was very lucky that they did that, and they made it. So they explained it in a way that basically they went, oh, right. So she basically had like an accident, like an injury, rather than it being like a weird thing.
Yeah. And they presented it well.
Yeah. And so basically scoliosis is just bone formation of the spine that goes wrong. So my bones just decided to go in the wrong place, basically. And now they're fixed. And it was incredible that they managed to do that, even though my surgeon took a golfing holiday.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Postponed the surgery for a golf trip, but it was fine because he clearly needed the rest. He did a great job. And I barely have a scar. I mean, it goes the whole way down my back, but it's perfect.
Yeah, I remember you showed me the scar on the George in Brighton.
Did I?
Yeah. I think we were like a couple of red wines in though. You're like, I'm gonna show you my scar, and we were there with Gav. It was just us three, I think, in the George.
Yeah.
One afternoon.
George in Brighton.
Yeah.
Forgot about that place. And so that was it. And basically I have those girls to thank, and they're still my best friends, and they were incredible to me. And I recovered. Like, I could only go into school for like a half day because I could barely walk. I could barely like stay awake because I was still on drugs. I was so tired.
Shit, yeah.
But I got 2 A's and a B at my A levels, so
fucking love a good AAB.
It worked out. Yeah, good AAB. Don't know how. And then I was like, cool, Dad, I'm going to music school. He was like, oh my God. Why?
Well, that's what a fucking great story. It's inspiring as fuck, man, because there's so much stuff you can take away from that story, because like there's the determination factor. You're proving things wrong. You've been effectively given a sell by date that you wipe away, and then you get given, okay, well, you're going to have to continue doing this for X amount of time.
Mm.
And you're like, fuck that. I'm going to be walking in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, it was just like, and it was difficult because like, there was another girl in the hospital at the same time, and she'd had her surgery a month before I arrived, and she was still on the morphine because it was so painful. A whole month she'd been in there on morphine, trying to get to the point where she could sit up for an hour. And they literally give you a list of challenges that you have to complete before you leave.
Yeah.
And I remember getting the list and being like, right, I can do this. Like it was just like something changed. And I think actually it was pretty scary. I never cried about the back thing because I realized I couldn't change anything about it. But the scariest part was actually just before surgery, when they were like, we have to run you through the risks of anesthetic.
Oh, yeah. We spoke about that yesterday. It's fucked, isn't it?
Oh, my God. She was like, you might go blind. I was like, why might I go blind? She was like, because you're on your front for the surgery and the pressure on your optic nerve can cause people to go blind because it's an 8-hour surgery. And I was like, no, thank you. No. They were like, but you'll be paralyzed if you don't have the surgery. I was like, no, thank you. No, don't want to be blind. It was like, what? Now you're telling me I might have to deal with that as well. Like, but then of course she was like, it hasn't ever happened here. I'm like, well, why did you tell me then? Jesus, like
small print fucking.
But then eventually, like, I think once I'd heard that and then got through the surgery itself, I was like, wipe the slate clean, start again, get up, move, like, you can do this. And I think it definitely made me stronger in like a cheesy way, like that whole what doesn't kill you makes you stronger thing. Like,
absolutely.
I'm looking back on it, it sucks that I spent my teenage years doing that and having to deal with that. But the crazy thing is, like, and it sounds ridiculously cheesy, but like music genuinely, like you, it helped me through that because, and I was terrible, and don't tell my surgeon that I did this, but I used to perform at Westfield Shopping Centre on the weekends. They had a pop-up stage and I used to play every single weekend. And I would go and I'd get there and I'd take my brace off, go on stage, play the show, put my brace back on. And that would be my like hour of not wearing the brace for a day. And I would literally go to these singing competitions as a teenager, and I could take the brace off and I could perform for half an hour, and people who didn't know that about me, and they didn't, they just assumed I was Katy Hurt, country singer. And it kind of gave me this opportunity to actually be who I was, as opposed to the person I was being made to be when I had the brace on. And I think I definitely took from that, like, make it count kind of thing. So I didn't really let it affect me as much as I think it could have done. Yeah. But I still get back pain to this day, and I will always get back pain because I can't change the fact that there's only 3 vertebrae in my spine that don't have pins in.
Right.
And they're the bottom 3. So that's why I can hinge from the hip.
Right. Okay. Did they do that on purpose?
No, those bones are too small to put pins in.
Right. Okay.
Because
so I know how back pain feels. I got a blown disc on L5 at the bottom of my back, and it's pretty fucking painful. But like yours is like a different level of.
Well, no, I mean back pain in general is kind of like a toothache. Like you just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, it's the same thing, that just constant bang, and you can't escape it.
But now it's more like it only happens. And actually, I learned how to upgrade my car. I got myself a seat. I don't know what it is. It's like it's on like straps, and you put it over the top of your car seat, and it's basically like a giant squishy trampoline type situation that you lean on. So you have lumbar support, because like my car doesn't have the option to add lumbar support to the seats. It costs like 10 quid on Amazon. I have like I've upgraded to like different pillows and stuff. And like, I'm just really aware of like making, like, I obviously can't slouch. So I can't ever sleep in the back of a car by like slumping over, because I literally can't slump over. So I know that like I have great posture now but that's frustrating on planes when I can't lean forward and sleep on the tray.
Oh, shit.
So like, I always travel with travel pillows. Like I have 3 of them. They're huge and I love them. Like one's an owl, one's a cow, and one's an octopus. Like giant kids travel pillows, because I've basically just learned like I have to make this situation comfortable for myself.
Well, I suppose if you're only 5 foot as well, you've got kids sizes stuff, right?
Yeah. I can still buy my trainers in the kids section, VAT free at Sports Direct. So
oh my god, that's so good.
So my trainers cost like £28, but the exact same pair in the women's section is like 52. I was like, yeah.
Shit. Fuck.
But yeah, I think in general though, having any sort of adversity growing up is always going to make you a more interesting person, because you will have to deal with other people's opinions on what you're going through, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah, fuck, I know about that. Yeah.
And
they need to put their opinion across. It's like,
my first song that I released on an EP was called Blue Snake, and it was the first time I'd ever put my own story into a song, and the lyrics were bitter and twisted, straighten me out. Right?
Great line.
And because I'm a blue snake, and the back brace that I wore was blue snake print. Like they made it blue snake print for me. So for 3 years, I wore blue snake print to school every day, and it was
sick.
Ridiculous. But like, so I put that was the title track to my first EP. It was called Blue Snake, and it was literally like me making a play on the fact that I was twisted, you know.
That's wicked, man.
It's like, well, cool, what else am I going to do about it? Like if I'm not going to laugh about it and write songs about it, then people are just going to make fun of me, and that's no good. So at least this way, you know, I made some money out of it by selling the CDs.
Brilliant. That's fucking great. I suppose before we come to an end, let's talk about this album.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, you've flown to Canada, spent 53 days out in Canada?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
December 30th to February 12th, we were there.
Right, okay.
So
tell me, man, what's it called? How many tracks? When's it coming out?
The name hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not telling you.
God damn, I thought I was going to get some sweet exclusive here.
I am super excited about it. So this is actually, I've released now.
Can I hear some snippets?
Of course. I've released now 3 EPs, and I don't even know how many singles. And I have been wanting to do an album as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Finally had the right team, the right producer, the right engineer, the right studio, the right co-writer with Gab, the band, and everything, to be able to be in a position where I could do that. And this album, and it's so funny because I've now been listening to it for like a year, because we recorded it in January of last year. So I've now had it and been sitting on it for a year, and I still get excited when I put the songs on. And it still makes me be like, oh, can't wait for people to hear this, because it's so me. Like with all the other songs, like with Unfinished Business, when we wrote that and we released it, I was like, that's me. I was just like,
great EP, man. I fucking love that EP.
And this is like the longer version. And it's so funny because we went through like so many different like feedback checks on which songs to put on it. And I asked my fans, I asked my family, I asked the band. And we spent like 3 days narrowing down the list. I spent 2 days just working out what order they went in. And there's 13 songs. And excellent. Each one is a little bit different, but they're all like, they all tell the story of basically like who I am. And the overwhelming theme, I think, of the record is definitely just like a combination of the highs and lows of like doing what you love. So like there's happy love songs and sad love songs, and there's songs about being a dreamer and songs about, you know, how difficult the dream is to follow. And I think there's a little bit in there for everyone. Like there's some bluesy stuff, there's some rock stuff. Because like this is the thing, like I love so many different types of music, and I've always been a country fan at heart. But actually it wasn't until I met my band that they played me some rock stuff, and I was like, oh, that sounds just like Kit Moore, or oh, that sounds just like, you know, like I didn't realize that the Eagles weren't a country band. I just assumed that they were.
Yeah.
They're classic rock. I was like, no, You're not telling me that they're classic rock. That's the Eagles. They're a country band. And they're like, no, you're wrong. I was like, Leonard Skinner, they're southern rock. They're like, they're southern rock, Katie. They're not a country band. So I had a very broad definition of what was country in my mind. And I think there's a little bit of everything in there. There's, there's blues, there's gospel, there's soul. And
listen, man, like I've been to fucking so many shows. I saw shows before I even knew you. And when you do the rock, fuck man, you rock. Do you know what I mean? You bring the rock.
Yeah, well, I technically have a rock band. I just sing with a twang. So
yeah, but you grew up in America, so you can fucking you're not putting...
yeah. But no, I'm so proud of it. And I can't wait for people to hear it. I don't know when it's going to come out yet because I still want to film music videos and do all that kind of stuff before we put it out, just so that I can actually release each single with the stuff that I want to release each single with.
Yeah, totally.
Which is obviously taking a while given the current situation. But I am super excited for like the first single when it finally comes out. It's going to be good.
Excellent.
Very, very.
So, have you got? Are you on any labels for it now, or management? No. Things?
So, it will. I'm hoping to reach out to some labels, and if anybody listens is from a label, then hit me up.
Right.
I'm hoping that we can partner with someone to do some distribution. I already have PR kind of in the back of my mind. I know who I want to work with, and so that's kind of sorted. But I don't know yet. Basically, is the answer. I basically put my album thought process on hold in March of last year because I realized it was going to take some time to figure out how I wanted to do things, and with everything going on, it wasn't going to be possible to give it like it's just deserved. So
yeah.
So and the other thing, the most important thing for me is being able to tour it, because as we have clearly discussed, I'm obsessed with being in my car.
You're a road dog.
And more than anything, I want to share the stories behind these songs with people. I want to in person get to experience this album's life cycle. So I don't want to put it out just online and then miss it, basically.
Totally.
Not that there's anything wrong with just putting music out online, but just for me, I love it so much that I couldn't do that. So as soon as we can properly plan a tour for it, then it will all start to come together. But I'm very, very excited about it.
Yeah, and so am I, man. I can't fucking wait to, send me some snippets,
I will.
But Katie, where can people find you?
Everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube.
Pinterest?
I have a Pinterest page. If you want to see my, potential gardening tips that I save on Pinterest.
Coffee branding.
Yeah, fashion ideas, they're all there. It's pretty much Katy Hurt on everything. Katy with a Y, hurt like the injury. If you Google any of that, you'll find me.
Excellent. Okay, Katie, well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and hang out. Although
my pleasure. Thanks for being interested enough to ask me about my life.
Shut up, mate. Shut up, man.
Thank you.
We talk about this stuff all the time anyway. We just get to share it on an official, whatever these bunny rabbit ears are.
Yeah.
But no, it was wicked. Just
quote unquote podcast. I think this might be my
podcast.
I think this might be my first podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what better way to bust the podcast cherry than with your homeboy? Your country homeboy.
Thank you so much for letting me come on here and talk your ear off, and
I love it, man.
Really just being interested and caring. So thank you.
No worries, man. What are friends for? You know what I mean? And guys, so make sure you go and check Katie out and support her, because the record is going to be...
It will blow your mind.
It's going to blow my mind. Nice one. Cheers, Katie. I'll see you soon. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. You know what to do. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Really help us out. And don't forget, you can also support my brand new record out on Patreon now at patreon.com/Nikki Smash Official.